With the opportunities to expand their empire in the Middle East now restricted by the growing power of the Mamelukes, the Mongols turned their minds to governing the lands they had already secured. This was but one such center of government. Elsewhere, Hulagu built treasure houses, churches, and Buddhist temples. But those, unlike these remains at Takhte Suleiman, have long since gone to dust. From here, the Mongols began to rule over what was called the Ilkhanate, but it was a land in a tragic state. The irrigation system, much of which was destroyed under Genghis Khan, had to be rebuilt, and the land that had been turned into desert brought back to life. A huge program of construction was eventually undertaken, and soon the ancient waterways were flowing again. Water was brought back to the towns and villages under Mongol jurisdiction by the local Persian rulers. Many of the irrigation systems in use today date back to those times. Farmers and herdsmen were encouraged to build up their flocks, and across the countryside the land began again to bear fruit. Within just 2 generations, the Ilkhanate had become prosperous again, a legacy for which the Mongols are hardly ever given credit. But their greatest legacy to this part of the world was a piece of architecture built as a tomb for a Mongol Khan. This is the mausoleum of Oljetu at Sultaniye. When the Mongols built this in the early 14th century, they had completely identified with their Persian subjects. They had abandoned their shamans and their age-old tolerance for other religions and converted to Islam. They had, to use the modern term, gone native. It's one of the greatest architectural wonders of the Islamic world. Its vaulting and its dome were the largest and most complex that had been built at that time, and served as models for other buildings from Samarkand to Florence. By now, the local Khans had become Persian in all but name. Their courts and their laws and their language were Persian, though their allegiance was still to the great Khan. The Mongol rulers here were never conquered or swept from power. They were simply absorbed into the rest of the population. In the bazaars and mosques of present-day Iran, you can still see the descendants of Hulagu's army. From Tabriz to Mashhad, from Tehran to Hormuz, the Mongol strain is still clear, after more than 700 years.